So today, let's see, I'm not sure what our topic is, but does anyone have any particular questions or things they'd like to talk about? If not, I'll probably talk a little bit about what we started last time. We talked about the Four Noble Truths, and we should probably talk a little bit about the fourth noble truth, which is the path that leads to perfect enlightenment and buddhahood. So it begins, it does require effort, If we put a little effort into things, we get a little effort back, and if we put a lot of effort in, we get more result. That's no matter what you do. Whatever you're studying or whatever you're practicing, it is a matter of diligence, discipline, and perseverance to attain the desired result. So Buddhism certainly is no different. So our mindfulness, our realization comes from the direct experience of the nature of our mind. But first we have to have the right view, that most people, although we all have the same minds, which is our Buddha nature, purity in its essence, it goes unrealized and consequently uncultivated. So we have to, first of all, come to the realization about our essential nature, our Buddha nature. So that is the first of these, the Noble Eightfold Path, is having the right view to put us on the path to realization. So we talk about right speech, that is to avoid harsh speech, to avoid lying, to avoid, to speak gently, to not be critical, to be not injurious with our speech. That idea of sticks and stones can break my bones. I think names can also hurt us. And we can't take it back, once said, and I think a lot of harm can be done when we speak words that are unfactual or untrue or critical or unbeneficial, certainly unendearing. Those things all create a result, And often we are not very skillful in our speech with others. We tend to be divisive in our speech, backbiting or saying cruel things to others. Maybe when they're not there to others, it can be abusive speech, idle gossiping. So right speech is something that we should begin to become aware of in our daily life. And that comes with mindfulness. So ultimately, having right meditation leads to awareness. Again, the nature of our mind is pure awareness. So this awareness, before, engage brain before you speak, that mindfulness aspect will keep us sometimes from speaking inappropriately or harmfully or creating harm for ourselves and others. So this right speech, speaking the truth, holding the truth, and not deceiving the world is very important. So this deception can sometimes take a lot of different forms. We may not be overtly lying, but we can give certain kind of indications, leading a person in a particular kind of way that is untruthful. So although we call it speech, it can be done in gesture, it can be done, we say body language. That is also a way that we communicate, yes? So that idea of, that could probably be in the sense of right speech. What are we communicating and how do we do that effectively, skillfully? Question about speech? Yes? No, it's because of our habitual patterns. You know, we get grooved in a particular kind of way of doing it, and like we said before, the more we do it, the more likely we are to do it again. There are people who are used to lying, and it's just reflex. They're just used to lying. And they don't even see it sometimes. It's just habitual patterns. So yes, essentially we do have that, and we can train ourselves to disengage from those negative habitual patterns and begin to cultivate virtue. And that's really what we're talking about here. So do believe it, that essentially everybody, even a Hitler, probably loved his mother, had love in there, but unskillful in the way that they expressed, you know, their ideas and their egos, and not to the benefit of all sentient beings. So it is a matter of disengaging from those habitual patterns and cultivating virtue. Does that answer your question? Yeah. No, we cling to our egos. We really think this is real. So we're going to do everything we can, and we continue to aggrandize and make solid this ephemeral, non-existent self. That's part of the right view, is to understand the nature of reality. So the Buddha was very realistic. You know, he said it the way it is. Now we have to disengage, again, from our habitual patterns of really thinking, you know, that this self has any inherent existence. And it's hard to do, because everything, you know, we do experience things. We do have the me and mine and, you know, all those kinds of things that we continually reinforce this idea of a self. But as one continues, and that's, you know, the eighth aspect of the Eightfold Path is wisdom, pristine understanding of the nature of reality and your own mind. And that comes from meditation, and that is the, once we have removed the clouds from our understanding, what remains is a clear view of this Buddha nature and all of its qualities. So as one progresses along the path, this becomes increasingly more available to us. But until that time, we are very deluded, you know, in our conception, and are not in reality at all. We think we are. We think this is pretty real stuff, and I'm me, after all. But this is very ephemeral. What is me? This me is changing constantly. You know, it is in a constant state of, it's impermanent. Our mind, our body, every aspect of this physical form is in the state of flux and change. So where is the me that we're so identified with? So we have right speech. And next would be right action in the world. Once we have right view, then we can proceed with right action. And essentially, the Buddha taught respect for life, so promoting life, you know, avoiding anything that is contrary to that, abstain from taking life, and to cultivate, on the other side of that, compassion and loving kindness for all living beings. We respect other people's property in that regard. We don't steal. You know, we don't take what's not given to us, or by force, or by treachery, or what's not freely given. And that can also be respect for relationships, you know, coveting, you know, other, you know, sexual misconduct, adultery, avoiding sexual relationships that bring harm to others, you know, abusing the senses, addictions of all kinds. This is all in the realm of right action, which protects us, from the karma that ensues from violating, these wrong actions. As we're reading the book on karma, our karma, as it is said, follows us like our shadow. So if we engage in negative actions in body, speech, or mind, there is an inevitable consequence sooner or later, because again, we're honing certain behaviors with every thought we think. That begins the process. Then we take an action, and then we either we revel in the action, and that really solidifies, cements the karmic aspect of the action. To have the intention, to carry it out, and then to revel in it or take pleasure in it. So if you're taking pleasure in a harmful action, that is even more critical to the karmic consequence. And if you're doing positive action and you really take joy in having done the good deed, that also kind of makes that action even stronger, more likely to do that again. So the right speech, right action. Right livelihood, is also another one of these 8. So earning a living, that doesn't violate, the truth of, or disrespecting life, well-being, property, personal relationships, other living beings, to trade in weapons or the instruments of killing and destruction. That is not right livelihood. But even more than that, even supporting, people invest funds in a lot of different ways. Be mindful in if you're, have stocks or you're investing. What are you investing in? What are you putting? Money's energy. There's a particular kind of view that, if you're supporting weaponry, if you're supporting things that create pain and suffering to animals, if you're polluting the earth, we don't want to support Monsanto. Slave trade, prostitution, human, degrading kinds of things that for humans. We want to support life. We want to have respect for individuals, and so that has far-ranging consequences in what we do on a day-to-day basis. So, trading in animals for slaughter, that's why Karmapa said, please, if you can, even for a day, a week, or whatever, try to be vegetarian. If you look at the farming, basically, animals are like crops, and industrialized meat, and the way the animals are treated and fed and taken care of is certainly not in their best interest. So, or trading in intoxicants or drugs or those kinds of things. I think you kind of get the idea of right livelihood and what would be a violation of right livelihood that doesn't promote life, that doesn't promote respect and understanding for people is considered, this creates a sick society, this situation when we look at instruments of killing and slavery and slaughter and addiction and those kinds of things. So that is, we want to be mindful. This is the big picture. And the Buddha was very comprehensive. All these things, he said, look at these things on a daily basis and cultivate good conduct, morality, and ethics. are based on fairness and equality and reciprocity. We all want the same thing. We want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. That's for all sentient beings. So be mindful. Just like when we say killing, if you hire somebody to kill an animal for you, you take the heavier karma for that. So the idea is that we preserve life, and the idea is also of our intention. Now you may be conscripted into the service and cannot get out of it. I don't know if that's possible. So you have to do that duty, but you don't do it with hatred. You don't do it with negative emotion, and you are sorry. You repent it basically if you have to take a life, whether it's a human life or an animal life. There is we have the idea that there may be circumstances when we're forced to do it, but we don't do it out of hatred. We don't do it out of negative emotion. In fact, we have great compassion for the situation, and we wish the best evolution for that person. The Buddha actually, there was before he became Buddha, in one of his many lives. You may have heard the story where there were many businessmen on the ship, and they had great wealth, and there was a person on there that was going to steal the wealth and kill the people. And the Buddha was aware that this was going to happen, and actually took that person out, killed them, saved all of the other many. There was some plan to do that. And so we have to decide what is it's not a one-size-fits-all. Every situation is different. One's intention is different. So in terms of karma, it's hard to say the karmic consequences given the mindset of the individual and the circumstances. It's not so black and white. So it depends upon the mindset of the individual. However, there are certain natural laws. I often use the one of gravity, and you may not believe in gravity, but don't jump off this building. You're going to break. So a person might not think there's any consequences to killing. Good luck with that. Yeah, if you understand that it is illusory, but generally, for example, Talopa, Naropa's teacher, I don't know, we talked about that recently. When Naropa saw him, he was on the side of a lake biting the heads off of fish and eating them and casting them away. But he was making the connection with that individual and sending them up actually to a better rebirth. Now, if you can do that, no harm in killing, because you're actually creating a better karmic circumstance for that person. But unless you're at that place that you have the capacity to alter the karma for that person in a positive way, karma is not illusory. We are creating karmic seeds for ourselves. To have the idea of emptiness is at least a first level bodhisattva. So if you can manifest yourself in 100 different places at one time, that is the first kind of city of a first level bodhisattva. Then you can say, okay, I can take this action. Yeah. It depends upon the intention. Very important aspect of that. And we may have remorse. If we have to do something that is outside of our moral, ethical kind of code, but we have to do it, then we confess it, we have remorse for it, we vow not to do it again, and we take all the necessary steps to kind of cleanse that, purify that situation. And that can be done. So we're not creating the circumstances for us to continually do that in a repeated way. So it always comes from our mindset, it always comes from our strong intention to be of benefit to others. But until we're enlightened, we don't know often what that is, as you say. So we do the best we can. under the circumstances. So that is the highest realization. And a lot of people feel like, oh, yes, that's, I understand that, but I'm not sure how many people actually do. The theory and the is one thing. The reality is quite another. People can walk through walls if they're not attached to the particular framework that we are constantly reproducing all the time about the me, the I, this physical world that we live in. When you see the illusory aspect of it, I mean, Milarepa could fly. He wasn't really bound by the natural laws even. There are incidences where literally people walk through walls. They're not bound by the same kind of realizations, or not realizations, concepts, structures, literal and figuratively, that we have constantly that keep us in this worldview. Does that make sense? It's pretty far out, but there's lots of examples of it. When I was in Tibet, Karmapa, he put his hand right through a mountain, stone, and his handprint was in that rock. Footprints, the Guru Rinpoche, their feet are in this rock, the footprint. Sure, no big deal. No big deal. If you're in that place, I mean, you can fly. There's called fast walking, fly. There's all kinds of siddhis or powers that one has when they're disengaged from this physical world as we know it. What keeps us in this situation is our concepts, our beliefs. And we keep reinforcing those moment by moment to keep this real. So the main things, in terms of our afflictions that keep us bound are our attachments, to this reality. The ignorance about, understanding the real nature of reality. And, these are called the three poisons, attachment, aversion, and ignorance. And our aversion is often what creates anger and negative emotions for us. So the Buddha offered three remedies to these attachments, these aversions and our ignorance, and that's basically, the antidote to attachment is renunciation. It's not to being attached to these physical forms or these kinds of things. And again, it doesn't mean we don't enjoy them or that we can't have them. We're just not attached to them, That is a very different realization. These antidotes, to overcome these afflictions. Renunciation. So renunciation, when we do our lineage prayer, we talk about renunciation. So that means just not clinging, to the self or to all of the different aspects of physical form that keep us bound, that keep us wanting. And the obvious antidote to aversion is compassion, loving kindness and compassion. You can't have aversion if you see the Buddha nature of each individual and you see the suffering for those individuals and you really, in your heart of hearts, want to be of benefit to them. Aversion ceases. Anger ceases, division ceases. And obviously the antidote to ignorance is wisdom that comes out of the direct realization of the nature of your own mind, direct experience. So talking about it, having some philosophical, intellectual understanding of it is good, but the reality is having the direct experience. As it is said, the finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. Don't get mistaken. So the idea of reading something is good. It can point the direction, but meditation, which is the one of these aspects of the Eightfold Path, is to cultivate even placement of the mind. So in shamatha, one begins to quiet this monkey mind and to begin to onion peel layer by onion peel layer get down to the clear awareness of the nature of the mind without distraction. And vipassana, or that clarity, we see again and again the nature of emptiness. We don't cling to the illusion of these of the senses, and we're able to see through them and cultivate true wisdom. By following the path of the Buddha. He taught very specifically the progress on the path. 84,000 different ways to appeal to all the different faculties and predispositions of minds. So that is the way. That is the Eightfold Path. How do we do it? Just like that. So we're cultivating virtue. We're avoid getting led down the garden path by our illusory perceptions, and disengaging from negative actions that keep us bound to our illusions. So that is what the Buddhist path is about, just that. So that is the million-dollar question, and that is the million-dollar answer. As I say, Buddhism is a supreme psychology, and it will guide you in your mental development. And you have, the good news is you have all the faculties to be able to do that. But you have to practice. You have to do it. You know, as we mentioned before, the idea here, the Four Noble Truths, often again, the Buddha would compare himself to a physician, and likewise, the truth of suffering is our dis-ease, and the truth of the cause of suffering. There is a cause. This is the diagnosis. We have this problem, and this is the cause. The truth of the cessation of suffering is the cure. We have the medicine for it. And the Fourth Noble Truth is the truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. That is the treatment. So what we've been talking about now is the treatment for our suffering, the treatment for our disease. And it is not, it's, the Eightfold Path is the treatment, to the suffering. All right, so let's see, where are we? We're talking about right livelihood. So we mentioned the importance of enthusiasm, to have this joyful attitude towards our practice. Our objective is to really cultivate a confident, energetic, well-measured attitude towards our practice. That has to be continuous, that has to be, we have to put some effort towards it, or it won't happen. So we want to exert some effort in to prevent unwholesome thoughts. That's again a part of mindfulness. That thought isn't so helpful, whether it's some negative, critical kind of thought. When it arises through our mindfulness, immediately, as soon as it arises, and that's what we do in our shamatha, is to redirect or to bring our awareness back to our breath, disengage from the thinking. But vipassana is the nature of thought. Where does it come from? What color is it? What size is it? We see that it's empty. It is nothing. It is totally devoid of any substance whatsoever. And so we are disengaging from our unwholesome thoughts as soon as they arise. So we're not grooving that negative pattern of negative thinking. And we're rejecting the unwholesome thoughts if they have arisen. And we're the other side of that, if we're aware of the negative thoughts, jealousy, greed, anger, those things, when they come up, we see that with a certain detachment. Very interesting. Let it go. And we're cultivating, wholesome thoughts, loving kindness, compassion, all of the deity practices that we do for loving kindness, compassion, health, healing, those kinds of things. And we continue to do those practices to maintain wholesome thoughts. Once they have arisen, we are continually practicing to be bodhisattvas. So we imagine ourselves in that capacity, and we maintain this practice of cultivating wholesome thoughts. That's what mantra is for as well. This is mantra means mind protection. So using Om Mani Padme Hum, for example, purifies the 6 negative states that lead to rebirth in the different realms. So those, the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum is a very powerful mantra. So when we're overcome by negative emotion or negative thoughts, to repeat Om Mani Padme Hum, imagining oneself as generating, that's why we do this, so we can immediately kind of go to that place, has very powerful consequences. So just Om Mani Padme Hum, very beautiful, yes. Okay, I see a lot of rustling and coming and going. We may have to stop at this point. I'm not sure. Well, the last part of that is, right concentration, our meditation. So to sit regularly, the mind can be distracted. You may know that. You may have noticed that. That the mind can be distracted. So we want to maintain a focus, so we use the breath for shamatha, and then we can clarify that. It leads to wisdom through the vipassana practices to see the thought, the nature of the thought, what is the thought, those kinds of things. And we see it leads us to the reality, the direct experience of the nature of our mind, which is empty. So more to come on these things. I thought it would be good if we just had a little chance to talk about those things a little bit. Sometimes it's not talked about so much. But any final questions? Okay, short break.